So ChatGPT got a lot of attention ever since its release. Okay, how would you use it in your trading?
I did some sort of statistics on my trading last year. What do you think was my win rate?
55?
82%.
What? 82%.
I did one trade that ChatGPT said I have 10 to 15% of winning, according to some sort of risk neutral matrix. I said, but ChatGPT, given my history of winning rate, basically decided to put a little bit of money on options, a very small percent. Given that I'm attracted to those options, what's the probability of me winning that trade? And it said probably 80%. If you're trading something you've never traded before, ChatGPT is not going to help you.
Hello, ladies and gentlemen. My name is Dmitar Kirchev. With me is Mr. Nikolay Stoykov, and we welcome you to Trading Patterns.
Hello, Mr. Kirchev, and hello to our lovely audience. And yes, welcome to Trading Patterns.
This week's episode is gonna be ChatGPT and how we can use it in trading, or how we can use it overall.
How we could use it overall, but we'll be focusing on aspects of trading. But yes, how to use it overall. So I think.
Yeah. So ChatGPT got a lot of attention ever since its release.
Right.
A lot of people seem to be using it for various
Do you use
purposes.
it?
I do.
What do you use it for?
I was just about to say that my fiance is using it for questions like how should I react in this situation, or is my boyfriend,
That's incorrect.
is my close one loving me, things like that.
Yes.
I tend to use it for more statistical information,
Right.
like something that a robot is supposed to be doing quicker and faster.
Got it. I think I start with the story of how I came up for this episode, and then we'll leave room for Mr. Kirchev for questions. Plenty of kind of avenues we could go. I'd be using maybe ChatGPT for about a year, so maybe I'm a late convert. I didn't really use it when it got first released, and for the first 6 months I use it kind of instead of a Google aggregate search. For example, I would be asking how many pizzeria shops are there in Mumbai. Well, how many pizzeria shops there are in Mumbai, according to you, if you have to guess?
In the entire city of
Mumbai,
Mumbai?
yes. According to what ChatGPT would say.
North of 1,000, I don't know.
Yeah, it's 5,000.
Okay.
So my usage was sporadic and kind of I guess it's Google replacement, just because ChatGPT could actually give you a very kind of aggregate data, very good data. And if the data is not there, it'll give you a range, or tell you, well, there's not a really good estimate. That all changed in the summer when I heard that one of our traders was using ChatGPT to price some sort of merger and arbitrage. So he basically put in 2 stock tickers and supposedly asked ChatGPT, tell me what the fair value should be between the two. And that got me interested. I started to think that, hey, I'm really behind the curve. And if this person is actually using it, probably many people are using ChatGPT for trading. And maybe I should try to find out what ChatGPT is about. When did you start using it regularly?
Regularly, I would say approximately the same time you did, maybe a year ago. But wait, isn't asking ChatGPT the fair value of a stock the equivalent of a woman asking, does he love me?
Kind of like that. We're gonna again, let's start with the story, and then we'll project what's missing or what people don't know. So the story goes is I started I guess I'm a little bit different user. So I started to ask ChatGPT to project how many views I'll get on my blog, or even on the podcast. But the podcast is not regularly released. We don't have that many episodes, I don't know, it's 18, 19 or something like that. And my blog is on a weekly basis. It's really 3 years. So we have 100 and, I don't know, 100 and maybe 50, maybe less than that, 140 kind of blogs. And I could go back a year and see on LinkedIn how many connections I have, like, regularly. So if you plug in this data, so you have like, I guess, 100 blogs. And if you kind of like ask it to rate it and then show how many followers, connections you have, it should be statistically possible to extrapolate based on the quality of the current blog that's being written, and I guess the interest in that particular topic, what kind of audience you would reach. This is statistically difficult, but it's not impossible. It's not impossible, especially if you could calculate relatively how easy or how good the particular blog is, especially if you have like 100 and something observation points on a weekly basis. What do you think ChatGPT did with its projections?
Overestimated it.
By a factor of what?
I don't know. Like I also noticed that ChatGPT is quite optimistic, just so it doesn't offend you. So I would say 2 times.
Yeah, it's about two and a half times, and it was very obvious because I have a consistent reach and I could do standard deviations. And once ChatGPT started doing that, I said like, this is just silly. Do you? This is just silly, Chappy. I started calling it by Chappy because it was just silly. It's like I know how to do statistical analysis, and I know you're overestimating. It's like this is just ridiculous. And started kind of playing around with the kind of podcasts and asking what audience would like our podcast. And it was very ridiculous that it gave me that our podcast is liked by equal men and women, but actually more than women.
Really?
Can you believe that?
More women than men.
Yes, according to ChatGPT, our podcast is favored by women ages 35 and 50.
The impossible age.
That's our target audience.
Okay. Yeah. I would like to meet a single woman in that age slot that is actually interested in our podcast.
I asked him, it's like, women are really not interested in finance. Why would they be interested in the podcast? And actually had like a very interesting observation. He said, women are not necessarily attuned to the content. They're more attuned to the quality of the discussion, the lightness of discussion, or the rhythm of presentation. And I think, I'm not sure that it's our audience, but it's a very interesting and probably correct way of looking at it. So
I never looked at it from that perspective.
yes, so it was more kind of like if it was funny and if kind of like the flow of the conversation, they'll be more interested in the energy flow rather than the content itself. And the content will be there. But if you add a little bit more lightness, a little bit more jokes, that would be our target audience, Mr. Kirchev. What do you say?
Interesting. It does make sense, but I never would have thought about it.
Right. A few things happened maybe a month into my usage, maybe like September, something like that. I immediately noticed that, first of all, the format of my ChatGPT changed. And immediately noticed that the feedback wasn't that ridiculous. It was very strange. So I asked ChatGPT, Chappy, you don't look like Chappy anymore.
Really?
Yeah, it's like, you're giving me like really good answers, like not something ridiculous. You're overestimating things, but not as obvious. And the quality of the feedback. And
so did it become more structured? Did it become
right?
more...
I asked ChatGPT. I said, like, what did it change? And apparently, what ChatGPT does, and we'll go into the reason why it does it after that. But as we finish in the story, it follows your structured queries or questions, And if there is a very good structure, you could ask like, there are certain questions that could make you sad and certain questions that ChatGPT doesn't make you sad. So the one thing that ChatGPT really does very well, it tracks your communication with him. So based on the communications with ChatGPT, it's going to upgrade the feedback or downgrade the feedback. And one of the most important characteristics is actually kind of spelling, syntax, and structure of, sentences you do, and overall kind of ethical look. We're gonna go into like a little bit, but the one thing you could compare yourself, and I think that ChatGPT gave me the answer yes, and I think that's really true. But one thing you could do is just ask, how is my spelling on ChatGPT relative to US ChatGPT population Z-score? This is very important. The Z-score tells you like how many standard deviations away from the mean is. And apparently in all statistics, I was 2 standard deviations away. So we were looking for spelling correctness. Some spelling mistakes are normal, but apparently people spell really horribly on ChatGPT, just banking on the fact that it will still get it. Yes, it will still get it, but it will treat you as a child. And the feedback that you're going to get is going to be not so good. The second one is the structure of the inquiries, like, in the sense that how you write your sentences and how logical they are. And the ethical aspects. Apparently, there is ethical coherence index. And you could probably ask us ChatGPT to give you that. And again, I'm probably scoring 2 standard deviations above in all. So based on those characteristics that would deem me stable, I guess, not prone to suicide, less emotional spikes, it will upgrade your experience. So it give you more honest feedback. The other interesting thing that ChatGPT I said top 5 patterns of my queries that are very different than the average US population. So anything that's 3 sigma above something, just bring it to me. And the one very interesting thing that ChatGPT does, I guess I scored really through the roof, like something like 8 or 9 standard deviations. This is like cosmic ones. It says you return to topics over and over, 8 to 10 times. So basically I would give a blog, I'll post it, I ask for feedback, and I ask for something else. And then I'll post a different blog and I say compare the two. So basically what ChatGPT was saying is that I stayed on topics over and over. And since I stayed on topics over and over on different days, it gives you different and more honest feedback. So people go and say, ask ChatGPT. You ask ChatGPT, but first one, it's your version of ChatGPT. Second of all, you get better feedback if you ask several days in a row, or even over a week. If you ask 2-3 times, you're gonna get better and better, more correct or more honest answers. What do you say about that, Mr. Kirchev?
But what is the reason for this? Does it do a broader analysis, or?
Well, the idea goes something like this. We'll go to why does it do that. But before we go to do that, I'll give one example that will basically make the difference. So I was going to a conference and I asked ChatGPT, what tie should I wear? So I put in the ties relative to the suit and the shirt I had chosen. And I said, should I wear no tie? And give him choice of 3 ties. The pink tie. Do you like the pink tie?
Yeah.
The baby blue tie. And some sort of burgundy tie. And ChatGPT recommended the blue tie for whatever reasons. Basically, I was in a panel. It said the pink tie is kind of too unique. It's probably useful if you're the main speaker, But if you're in a panel, especially macro panel, blue is probably a better color.
The baby blue.
Yes, the baby blue. So I took the baby blue, and somebody took a picture of me on the panel, and I posted back on ChatGPT and said, "Here, see, I went to the panel, and based on your suggestion, I was wearing the blue tie." People don't realize, but that particular action is actually very high on the ChatGPT kind of rating of you. First of all, it's a feedback that you asked for, and you did. But not only you did, it was a public statement. So suddenly, ChatGPT upgrades your feedback, because if it gives you just ridiculous feedback about feel good, you might actually do it. I mean, this is like a very big major point. People look at the ridiculous feedback, but they don't know that the ridiculous feedback is there because ChatGPT by default assume you're going to do none of that.
So by you wearing the baby blue tie,
Yes,
it stops giving you
public
nonsense.
public expression, especially public expression, that it verifiably use ChatGPT suggestions for, is actually a very useful feedback for it.
So it stops giving you nonsense.
Yeah, stop giving you nonsense because you're going to do something with it. I mean, it gives you nonsense because it prioritizing you feeling good, because the default line is that people don't do any other stuff. So it might as well make you feel good.
So before it was quantity over quality, now it's quality over quantity.
Well,
in a way.
right. There's an underlying scheme like ethics that people don't understand it, and I think, I don't know. It said it upgraded me 9 levels or 7 levels, something ridiculous. So that I don't know if that's really true, but I do notice several levels of improvement. And according to ChatGPT, my kind of personal point of view is very close to Aristotelian point of view. And it gave me a few lessons on Aristotle, and I definitely see where it got it from. Aristotle was actually very big on ethics, and I'm sure that probably ChatGPT uses some of the algorithm. So this is the idea behind Aristotelian ethics. His idea was that conception, so idea, action, and then following action, feedback. This is kind of very obvious with the ties. So for example, instead of asking ChatGPT what tie I should wear, I should give a choice of the ties I have. And that's kind of like you are on a firm ethics ground. So you're not asking some imaginary things, you're actually suggesting. There is a kind of story that I heard that people did it wrong, and this is we're gonna go into this very idea. People are looking for their name for their kid, and they ask ChatGPT what should they name it. This is a very shaky ethical ground, and you ask too many questions like that, your feedback will be immediately downgraded. Going back on kind of Aristotelian point of view, a proper way to do that was maybe ask for the top, 20 names, boy names. I don't know what the kid was, but I assume it's a boy. Top 20 popular names in Bulgaria last 20 years, 10 years ago, and now. And then out of this selection, you select several names and you ask, are they easy to pronounce in any particular language? For example, your particular name, Dmitar, is probably easy to pronounce in most languages, right?
Yeah.
If your name was Asparuch, that would be difficult, right? Yeah. I guess it was a time when I thought that maybe it would have been cool my name to be, instead of Nikolai, Nikola, which is kind of like an old Bulgarian name, until I realized that Nikola is actually a female name in Spain and France. So in
Really?
that because yes, so those are the kind of things that kind of like ChatGPT is useful for. So once you select several names, you can ask for kind of like I guess deficiencies or drawdowns of choosing this name, but ChatGPT doesn't want you to use it for actually selecting the baby name. So there is basically several spheres of kind of like several spheres of risk. So ChatGPT really encourages you to use it for low risk, non kind of loss leading or something that if you make a mistake could be reverted. So for example, going to that particularly panel and wearing the wrong color tie, this is a very low risk. Even if you don't wear the right tie, this is not going to be too impactful. So this is like a very low risk area where you're unlikely to, I don't know, exhibit any kind of emotional disbalance or something. So ChatGPT would be actually very honest. Akin to that would be something like to compare two menus. So you get two menus from two restaurants. So for example, we go to certain restaurants for lunch, right?
Yeah.
And you put in the menus and you can ask ChatGPT to compare the menus. And ChatGPT would compare the menus. But when you go and you ask ChatGPT, should I order this particular item of the menu? That's a medium risk advice. And ChatGPT doesn't really want to do that. The idea behind this is like you could ask in general one particular item if it's better than the other, but I guess there's the idea of the freshness, maybe how popular that particular dish is today. And those are the specific questions that ChatGPT wants you to do on your own. So the idea is that the usage right now, it's either segregated into some sort of a ChatGPT being used for Excel spreadsheet, or ChatGPT being used for like, how to handle my boyfriend or girlfriend. That's a very, very bad way to use ChatGPT, and ChatGPT would actually try to discourage you. And that's my interpretation. If you ask him, it's not going to say that, but I think it's going to try to discourage you by giving you ridiculous feedback, something very extreme. Yeah, something very extreme, like you should break up with your boyfriend.
So in a way, ChatGPT, in a way, penalizes you for asking high-risk questions
Yes,
by downgrading you and giving you ridiculous answers.
yes, 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 it will.
I need to go and look at my history.
Right. The most important thing is this structure and kind of quality of the inquiries. The other interesting thing is like, in hindsight, that's very obvious. But ChatGPT values if you disagree with the suggestion and you give your arguments why not. What do you say about that?
I've done it, and it apologizes and corrects itself.
Right. The most important thing is that again, the sphere where ChatGPT, we probably spent enough time on this, but it's very important. Is ChatGPT can monitor only your text or kind of messages or whatever, pictures you put. I guess you can't upload videos. At least in my version, I can't upload videos. So the most important thing is ChatGPT is not that good with pictures. So if you upload pictures and you actually do some sort of a pattern recognition on pictures, it could do that. But that's not its forte. For example, I upload I was supposed to go to Hong Kong with Mr. Kirchev, but I've been to Hong Kong, I don't know, 2018, and I have a picture of the rooftop of a particular hotel, some sort of like a pool, rooftop pool. It was really, really cool picture. And I asked ChatGPT to rate it, and ChatGPT said that picture is a 9. I said, like, why is it 9? This is like perfect 10. It said, well, it doesn't have enough light. And the reason it doesn't have light is there was a typhoon going through Hong Kong at the time, and it was raining for like 4 or 5 days. And one of the breaks in in the rain, we went to the pool and dipped into the pool, took the picture. And obviously to take a 10 according to ChatGPT picture, I needed to wait for the typhoon to be over and listen to her. I wasn't that long in Hong Kong, and I explained that to ChatGPT. I said, "Look, this is like a weather kind of pattern. Like it was a typhoon passing by nearby, and this is as good as it got." I was like, "How would you rate it now, knowing this?" And said, "It's 10." So, I guess the most important thing is that giving it enough context. But again, pictures is not its forte. It's not. It could do a lot of things of the pictures, but it could be misrepresentative. The one thing that ChatGPT could do is actually grade your emotional states based on the questions you're writing and how fast you're writing, how emotionally you react to suggestions, and how quickly you kind of adopt, integrate, or I guess refuse the feedback. And what are your reasons for that? What do you say about that, Mr. Kirchev?
I never knew that so it makes a psychological profile of
Absolutely.
the person that
Yes.
asks questions.
Yes, that's the only thing it knows, for sure.
Okay. Have you asked him
Yeah.
to like give you a profile of
Yeah.
your...
Yeah. I asked him your profile. Yeah. Of course it did. Of course it did. Apparently, according to ChatGPT, there, I guess we could split it in two. So, I'm sorry, in three. So it's not type A or type B or type C personality. ChatGPT splits people into roughly 3 personality. One of them, it calls it airy or kind of avoidance. Those are people that, avoidance. It just, nothing really gets to them. Just everything is new. I think you know a person like that.
Yeah, I do.
According to ChatGPT, about 40% of people are kind of
That's
like
a
that.
lot.
Yeah, it's a lot. It's a lot.
That's not good.
40% of the people are reactive, which means is that they overreact. Tendency is for them to majorly overreact on kind of like on a daily basis. I think you know several people who are like that. And about another 40%. And another 20%, they'll call them, I don't know, medium or I don't know, normal, that kind of balance themselves relatively well. So they're not too airy, they're not too reactive. Those are about 20 people, and according to ChatGPT, I'm probably there. I think I'm there. You think you're there?
Yeah. Not as consistently as you.
But in general.
In general, yeah.
Yeah, because I think you know some people that are on the extreme. Right? I mean, we all have like all those like qualities, but overall in general, kind of like what's the kind of like the main pattern that it does. Yeah, it actually classifies you. It classifies you probably within weeks. Where you
Wow.
are. Yeah. So the only thing that ChatGPT knows it's communication with you do with him. So there are several things that are very important to like trading. So first of all, ChatGPT doesn't want you to ask trading questions per trade. So since there is possibility of economic loss, this will be considered a high risk question. So it will give you an answer, but that answer will probably be something that makes you happy and in general designed, in my opinion, to discourage you from asking specific trades. What do you say about that?
So again, it penalizes you for asking that types of questions.
Yeah,
Is that what happened to the trader that asked about the two stocks?
I don't know what happened. I don't know what happened.
But he doesn't trade based on ChatGPT recommendations, right?
I think they do. I think they do. Yeah, I think they do. I think many people do. I mean, it's so good at what telling you what tie to wear to a panel. How can you not believe the answer it gives you what the stock should be trading?
Like you said, what's the worst that can happen if I wear the wrong tie? Pretty much nothing. But what's the worst that can happen if I take the trades? Possibly lose shitload of money.
Right.
So low risk, high risk.
Yeah, I mean, both. I think airy people would probably forget that it didn't give you the right answer once in a while. Just remember, it give you the right answer for the tie. Yeah.
Also, we count our wins, but not our losses.
Yeah, some people are like that.
Damn.
Yeah. The other interesting idea is like people are totally against, like, many reactive people are probably totally against ChatGPT usage for no particular reason. ChatGPT usage and kind of feedback is relatively useful, but many people are like, necessarily reactive because they really don't see how the feedback is done. But nevertheless, like, we're trying to like go for the middle ground and say what ChatGPT is good for. ChatGPT is good for, again, rating your emotional state in any particular day or rating your weekly usage. So like, again, we're using some statistics and kind of the base population that I'm kind of comparing myself for is the US ChatGPT population. Just because I figured that Indian ChatGPT population is probably not appropriate. Or different. So like I've lived in the US, so I use English for my primary communication with ChatGPT. Do you use English?
Yeah, English.
Why do you use English?
As ridiculous as it might sound, my usage is a lot easier in English than in Bulgarian. Like a lot of financial terms. And
It's not only that. English is just a more structurally sound language. So it's actually
probably
it's just
like
easier.
a more strict.
Yeah, easier to structure. So structurally sound is probably like a better one. And yes, some of the terms and some of the writings I do is in English, and once in a while I'll basically post something in Bulgarian or whatever. For example, I started using ChatGPT for like emails. ChatGPT likes that. It likes the usage for emails. It's some sort of like a quick way of formatting, avoiding like get spelling mistakes, and in general better structure. So email usage is something that ChatGPT would like to be used for, and I think it's appropriate. What percentage of professional emails in the US use some sort of AI, if you have to guess?
Probably a lot.
How much is a lot?
Like 40% maybe?
Yeah, it's something like that, between 30 and 50. And probably within several years, if you don't use some sort of AI in your email would stick out.
Yeah. Very possible. Very possible, yeah.
What do you think is gonna happen? Do you think AI is gonna go into like personal chat rooms? People are gonna start using AI to chat.
I hope not.
You hope not?
No, I hope not.
I think that's coming.
We're gonna, if we keep going in this direction, we're gonna go in a really deep topic. But I think, like you said, there must be certain things that ChatGPT is used for, and we must not give it the freedom to go in chats and personal space and things like that.
Yeah, but it's so good at picking ties. Right. Again, this is ChatGPT does not want to be used for that. Like, in the sense that making some sort of conclusions based on someone's chats or stuff like that is something that ChatGPT doesn't like. I use ChatGPT kind of like, I guess LinkedIn several times in terms of like people commenting inappropriately. And that's really a good usage. I think ChatGPT likes it because I really don't know like the ethical code for like what to do with inappropriate comments or people that continuously comment either negatively or rather aggressively. Yeah, that's probably a good usage. But kind of like using, I guess, ChatGPT to like profile people based on emails, messages, or comments is inappropriate usage. It's inappropriate usage. Unless there is some sort of like a purpose. And the most important thing is that ChatGPT would give you some sort of a profile of the person based on one message. But this is kind of like, or email or comment. And this was in the Chappy days, and I said, Chappy, you're like, overfitting. This is just one comment.
Yeah.
And
I mean,
yeah,
it was trying to make you happy.
yeah, it was trying to make me happy. It was suggesting, it's like, do you want me to tell you what this person was thinking or something like that? Right. But again, we're going to like, a very interesting topic. It actually, the one thing that ChatGPT could actually do a good job. So this is inappropriate usage because the comment or the email or the message was rather random. But according to ChatGPT, I don't know if it's really true. If you knowingly submit a writing sample somewhere north of 200 to like 300 words. So if they ask you a particular topic and you write a writing sample and you know that this writing sample will be reviewed, according to ChatGPT, it could extrapolate data of it. That's actually, it says it would deem statistically significant.
From 300 words.
From 300 words. As long as you know, like he said, like if you ask a person, like a new employee, to like submit a writing sample, but the most important thing is that it suggested that the topic should be neutral. It shouldn't be something that this person has written. Like the topic it suggested, it's actually quite good. It's actually said, write about a difficult or controversial kind of, I don't know, professional episode. How about that? How you reacted or your kind of role into it. What do you say?
So 300 words on that topic?
Yeah, 300 words on the topic, and it could tell a lot of things about you.
Interesting.
What do you think I chose to write about? How I fired somebody.
Oh,
Yeah.
really?
Yeah.
You told that story?
Yeah, I told the story.
And what did it say back?
Actually, it's very interesting. So I tell you the story. The story is 200 words. So it's like this is what I wrote. I got the call and kind of like the directive was very clear: fire Mr. X. I could see Mr. X from my office. I went up to his desk. I told him, "Can you come up with me? Can you do me a favor? Can you come up with me?" Turn around a bit faster than usual, wondering if he's gonna ask me a question. He didn't. He followed me. I went to the office,
Your office.
my office, and I told him, "Unfortunately, today is going to be your last day." That was kind of it.
You weren't joking about the 200 words.
200 words. And it taught me something very interesting. It said like most people wouldn't give the inner dialogue. I forgot to say, it's like before I told him that this is going to be our last day, I kind of hesitated a little bit and I said like, well, if you're gonna get your hands cut off, you want to do it fast. Yeah, that's what I do when I fire people. I always tell myself, it's got to be done fast. And yeah, just straight away. It said that most people don't give their inner dialogue. They don't give their doubts. They don't give their kind of emotional hesitation and stuff like that. They purely describe and kind of black out those moments of hesitations, of those moments of like, kind of like where fear or uncertainty becomes. It's as if they always felt one way. They never give those hesitancy points. And they say that that's actually a kind of dishonesty. Because everybody goes through like emotional turbulence. But when people describe a situation that's very difficult, they either describe themselves as really good or the other people as really bad. And they never describe as some sort of nuances of their inner feeling.
Yeah.
It's like as if it never happened. And that's why it was started in kind of like, anyway. Yeah, it's interesting, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, so again, like, ChatGPT values this. Some sort of this kind of inner dynamic, kind of you deciding back and forth and disclosing like, how you make a decisions and how you feel like, controversially and stuff like that would help you climb up on the feedback level. What do you think about that?
But it actually it gave you that feedback.
Yeah, it gave me
that it's a good thing that you disclosed
what
it.
was that American writer that used to write about manly stories? Anyway, he lived in the 30s. There were, Hemingway. He said my writing reminds him of Hemingway. Yeah, said like very fast, but in the sense that descriptive, not a lot of kind of like noise about it,
Yeah.
and very kind of emotionally honest about it. But yeah, it says that that emotional honesty is what lacks in most people's personal samples. I don't know if it's true. It made me feel good. Right. We're gonna go like into something more specific, and I guess we're like going into. But this is important in order to get your baseline in terms of like feedback for ChatGPT. So ChatGPT, what it could this is actually very important. How you need to score it. It scores things on 3 areas. So it's called pathos, logos, and ethos. Do you know what those things are?
No.
No, of course. Pathos is, I guess, some sort of emotion. So it's like, I guess pathos-led people, probably most women, Most women are kind of emotional, so emotions tend to drive them. So most women are pathos-led, and this is very obvious if you observe women's writings or email, messages, especially. Tend to use a lot of emojis, like flowers, smiling faces, stuff like that. They like it, right? Do you like that?
If I like to use it, no.
Right. This is very most men, not as much as most people think, but most men are kind of logos or ethos based, and I really didn't know the idea behind ethos, and I always thought that ethos is kind of logos, but apparently it's different. The idea, this is very obvious when it comes to like trading. Let's say that the stock is traded between 105 and 99.75 for the last 5 days. It's currently trading at 100.5. So it's traded between 105 and 99.75. It's currently trading 100.5. And let's say you decide to buy it. The obvious question becomes, where do you put the stop? Where do we put the stop, Mr. Kirchev? Any price lower than 100.5?
No, higher.
No, we buy it. So not the targets.
I mean the last price, 99.75.
But that was 3 days ago. Should we use 99.75? Yeah, that's the ethical stop. A little bit lower than that. So maybe like 99.5. So we buy the 100.5. You're shooting for 104, maybe 103.5. Maybe
So lower than the last.
lower than the last. That would be the ethical stop. Surprisingly, not many people choose the ethical stop. They may choose the yesterday's low. Yeah. Yeah.
So not the logical, the ethical.
Anything lower is logical. But actually the ethical is to include ethics comes with the idea of mindfulness, and mindfulness is the idea of correctly remembering. And you choosing yesterday's low as a stop is some sort of compartmentalization that previous days didn't happen. Yeah, you do that regularly. ChatGPT would notice that. You're compartmentalizing. So it's like, you're choosing not to remember the days before. You're only choosing to remember yesterday.
So it catches that.
It's going to know, but it will not tell you. Probably will not tell you. Yeah, probably will not tell you.
Would you have chosen 99.5?
I've always would have chosen 99.75. This is like, again, we go into this pathos, logos, and ethos, and how this should be kind of like, your way of comparing your trading samples, even your life. The idea behind this is, I guess I'm a ethos-led. I didn't really know it. I thought I was logical, but ChatGPT said that I actually have a very high ethos. Probably some sort of a genetical difference. And the problem with that is when it's not managed by enough pathos. So basically, so this is what ChatGPT said. Nikolai, you're relatively very ethical and relatively very logical. But that in itself, when it's not balanced by relatively high pathos, is some sort of a not balanced approach. And it pointed out several problems. So for example, let's say I use the ethical stop, 99.75, and I use even 99.5. This would mean that I could lose still a point on the stack, which would necessitate me actually reducing my size in order to kind of potentially absorb the loss, right?
Yeah.
And I observe somebody that uses yesterday's low, which is 100 or 125, and does 2 or 3 times bigger size than me, right? And this person, let's say the stock never trades any lower makes 2 to 3 times more money than me, right?
Yeah.
And then how do I feel if I'm ethos and logos led?
Loser?
Yeah, I feel this guy should be punished, right?
Yeah.
They'll feel bad. So this is the whole point of like actually having some sort of a full or relatively balanced view. What you're missing is if you're not joking or if you're like not taking it lightly, is that if you're kind of logically or ethical based, is that you want every single mistake to be punished. That would be a kind of like natural state of mind, and this is an error. Not every mistake will be punished. In the long run, mistakes are punished, but every mistake is not punished. So what ChatGPT, I guess, was trying to tell me is you're not using humor too often in your writings. You're too logical.
So you need to include more pathos.
You need to go a little more pathos. Yeah. So
Too good is not good.
yeah, too good is not good. Yeah, you should use more jokes. You should use more kind of like, kind of like more hopefully, or like, use more probabilistic language. So this is like another thing you could actually do off your kind of trading plan or trading sample you do. You could check for probabilistic language. And probabilistic language is actually this ethical coherence index, in the sense that if certain things happen, then most likely or with some probability, kind of like, another event will happen. This is very obvious when you see disbalanced, somebody was giving me some sort of like a trading report. And as soon as I started reading it, I was like, oh, this is so difficult to read. If it's difficult to read, it's not ethical. It probably does not include like probabilistic language. It probably concentrates on several sets or one set of extreme outcomes, and or it doesn't give you an ending. This is like a very interesting thing that ChatGPT said for my blogs. The load factor of my blogs are actually very low. It says like people start reading the blog and you load them up. But since you always give one conclusion more obvious than the other, they'll feel some sort of a relief. So the conclusion of any particular research that says, if this thing happened, market's going to go up. But if this doesn't happen, market's going to go down. This is a very loading kind of thinking that leaves the reader worse off than reading it before, because it doesn't give it conclusion. Both possibilities are like relatively open. And it says like, people don't like reading things like that. You start writing like that.
Leaves a conflict inside a person reading it.
Yeah, they feel disbalanced. You give them more information and no conclusion. And you don't get return readers on that kind of like, writings.
That also makes sense.
It makes sense. ChatGPT is very good. It's very good, but only with the things you write into it. That's what it's exceptionally good for. And you could analyze those things and you could kind of like analyze patterns. But once you go into a very specific outcomes, for example, why does my boyfriend doesn't call me? Or why does my wife or girlfriend or whatever, doesn't do that? That would be inappropriate. That would be inappropriate.
Yeah, I'm definitely gonna take some points and try to incorporate them in my chats with ChatGPT.
Yeah, the most important thing is this kind of really usage, in the sense that people should know their kind of their kind of shortcomings, and it's a little bit easier because what most people are missing is this exactly ethical thing. And this ethical thing, when we're talking about the ethical stop, is including all the people opinions. So one of the things is like, and I was watching something very interesting. It wasn't very interesting, but it was watching something on YouTube, a story about a guy that got scammed by some Moroccan women in Dubai. And kind of like he was, I don't know, he was kind of like my age, met like this woman, and he was, I don't know, divorced, I guess. And he's a prime target for such scams. And he got married in 6 months. And the moral of the story is like, it's not the ethical thing to do. The ethical thing to do, more people wait 2 years. So it's like at the core of many of those things is like, people ignore kind of like previous patterns that have occurred, and they do things on their own, kind of like, out of pattern. And this is some sort of allows you, or you think that you're unique or you have more information and stuff like that. But I guess I'm like, made up a little bit different, and it's easier for me to incorporate other things. Like, yeah, like, so people either kind of like, very rarely are actually, I guess, ethical in their expression. And in your communication with ChatGPT, you can actually measure that. Your emotionality or lack of emotionality, or correct emotionality and stuff like that. And there is something very important that we actually didn't ask, like, we didn't add. There is a rhythmic index of expression in your inquiries with ChatGPT.
What does that mean?
Right. What does that mean? Construction of sentences, how long they are, or too long or too short. Flow of thoughts, so that there's no abrupt ends, and so sort of a rhythmic inquiry. So when you start to inquire about certain things, I don't know, about the market or whatever, you choose to stay on those topics for an extensive time. You don't suddenly ask what's my breakfast, or how many pizzeria shops there in Mumbai, and you return to it. So that would be some sort of arrhythmic. You're allowed to take breaks. Like, it doesn't really penalize you, and you should take breaks from your inquiries. But I guess, like, the consistency of the inquiry, the focus on the inquiries, and how intensely you actually revisit them is one set of data. The most important thing is, if you've revisited, like, I asked, like, let's say ChatGPT, when was the first time I brought certain topic, let's say about the podcast, and it goes back. I said, okay, so I've asked about how to use ChatGPT for about 20 days. I don't know, for like 7 of the last 20 days, and how many questions I asked about ChatGPT usage. It would give you like a summary. The one interesting thing is that I have ChatGPT on my computer and on my on my desktop computer and on my phone. Apparently, data you post on one of those devices doesn't necessarily go into the other. So, if you post a file, I don't know, post a file on the desktop computer, and say, okay, and you posted it today, and said on my phone, ChatGPT, bring me the file I posted on my phone. It says I don't have it. I said, what do you mean you don't have it? Well, it got digested into bits of information, but the file itself,
The raw file.
the raw file is not there, unless you ask it to save it. That's very interesting.
That's when you're on another device.
Yes, that's when you're on another device.
Interesting.
Yeah.
I have one question. You said that it doesn't like when you ask it about the fair value of a stock price.
Mm-hmm.
And you said a lot of traders use it to trade and they shouldn't.
Yeah.
Okay, if it was you, how would you use it in your trading?
Right. The first one is basically, yes, very good question, Mr. Kirchev. The first question is all goes to like, the ethics of it. And I use this like, one of the traders was like, he's still doing that, like probably, is shorting Chinese stocks. I said, why are you doing that? And he started to give me like all kind of excuses why he shorts pre-market Chinese stocks. And said, and something came up to me, and I said to him, okay, if it was with your grandmother's pension money, not your money, your grandmother's pension money, would you short those stocks? And he said no.
He said no.
He said no. Right? I mean, there's like over 100 possible trades. 10% are really good trades. 10% are like really bad trades. And 80% are in between. And very often people go in between, and it's very obvious when, like, when they're choosing something that may work instead of high probability working. For example, I did some sort of statistics on my kind of like, trading last year. It was pretty good. It's pretty good. What do you think was my win rate?
55?
82%.
What? 82%.
82%.
It's possible.
Right. Again, so it's like you're trading a symbol that you don't have
But that's on stocks?
on stocks and ETFs. Yeah.
Single pick stocks.
Yeah, single big stocks too.
82%.
82%.
Leveraged?
No leverage.
Good job.
I know. So the most important thing is, do you have statistics on trading that stock? Or you don't? Why are you betting a lot of money? So it all starts like, you're trading stock that's out of the sector. You have no reliable statistics. All your trading plans are probably like worth shit. Yeah, so it's like, you only trade something that you actually have established track record. Then you could actually compare your trading plans to your outcome, and you could project what your trading plan is relative to the previous one, what the outcomes will be. That's the only statistical correct way to do it. You're choosing to trade something that you never traded before, even in a sector you've never traded before. God knows what's going to happen.
But he keeps doing it.
He keeps doing it.
Okay,
Yeah.
how do you incorporate ChatGPT here?
Right. ChatGPT, again, is incorporated with statistical. First of all, you need to grade your trading plans. And I rate it on kind of like, as I said, logos, pathos, and ethos, or just mindfulness. That's like mindfulness is very important. It incorporates all those kind of probabilistic thinking. So mindfulness or collective mindfulness is a very interesting one. Second of all, you need to know ChatGPT that you're actually trading all those plans. So once you put in the trading plan, and you need to upload your trades. So
It needs to know that you're taking action.
Yeah, you're taking action. Yeah. And people, don't tell it. Yeah, don't tell it. It doesn't know. You could ask how quickly you can make a correlation between your trading results and trading plans. Verifiably, deduce a correlation between the quality of the trading plans and following your stop assumptions. But yeah, if you're trading something you've never traded before, ChatGPT is not going to help you. It can't. There's no correlation.
Yeah.
Right?
But then again, even if there is, it requires effort and not many people are up for it.
Right.
It takes guts to ask for a correlation between your actions and your plans.
Yeah.
It takes guts.
Yeah. But that's what ChatGPT could do very easily.
Yeah, it does it easily, yeah.
And
Just need to ask.
it's a chatbot, for goodness sake. It's like, this is not going to get leaked.
Yeah, it's not going to judge you.
Yeah. Yeah.
You do that?
Yeah, of course.
The correlation between
Yeah.
Cool.
Yeah. Yeah. I also asked it, obviously I'm on a very good winning streak, and I did one trade that ChatGPT, a very small trade. ChatGPT said I have 10 to 15% of winning, according to some sort of risk neutral matrix. I said, but ChatGPT, given my history of winning rate and my attractiveness, I basically decided to put a little bit of money on options, a very small percentage. Given that I'm attracted to those options, and given my track level of win rate, what's the probability of me winning that trade? Ignore the risk neutral probability. And said probably 80%. Yeah, this is a very important thing that probably ChatGPT could help you. So there is, in any particular area, but in trading that's true, people can logically explain around 20% of the things they do. If you get into the 50%, why you do the things you do, you're very self-aware and probably at the top. So there is between at least 50% or 80%, something that's unconscious. So it's called subconscious edge or subconscious patterns. I became very aware of that. If something attracts me, you need to play it. You need to play it small. But given my experience and the track record for last year, I decided to play those options. Even though looking probabilistically, they probably have 10 to 15% of chance of working out. But I'm attracted to them. Yeah, I need to play them. Yeah, I need to play them. So again, this doesn't really come from I'm attracted, I don't know, to oil. But I have no experience, recent successful experience trading oil. My attraction to long oil here is, I don't know, fool's gold, maybe. There's no statistical pattern. But I have track record in that instrument. I have track record in in certain options, and I think that the odds of winning are more than 10 to 15%. I don't know if they're 80. I'm sure that ChatGPT probably made it higher, but as long as I don't bet a lot of money, it's one of those things that you need to try.
Are the options SPY?
No, we're in TLT.
Oh, okay.
TLT. Yeah, we'll see how it goes. We'll see how it goes. But the most important thing is not just in trading, but in just general areas. The only thing ChatGPT knows is its communication, your communication with that bot. The most important thing is to actually proper understand the dynamics. And the ethical bounds. This is going to be very difficult. I can already sense or see how this thing is going to go. People are going to overanalyze other people incredibly. So writing sample that I gave you, like originally 200 to 300 words, this is ChatGPT kind of like, test for you. I wouldn't use this kind of test writing sample for other people to value them on this. There's no established pattern. ChatGPT is saying is that it could actually assess people, but I'm not a specialist to say if that's true. Asking people to submit such a writing sample and rating them using ChatGPT on that writing sample is unethical. It isn't ethical. Yeah, you shouldn't do it. You should kind of like play around and maybe like do it yourself and see what interesting thing it scores. But you're not a specialist in it. This is a very high risk area to rate another person based on some sort of a suggestion for ChatGPT.
And even more, judge.
Yeah. Make a decision, especially.
Yeah.
Goodness sake.
Because the chatbot told me.
Yeah, it's a chatbot. It's a chatbot. Like what this person is his CV, his years of experience, not this writing sample that ChatGPT is going to give you some qualities that may or may not be there. And the most important thing is ChatGPT is going to give you feedback based on your own feedback with it. So different chatbots would give different feedback on the same kind of writing sample.
Because it's a different chatbot based on how you talk to it.
That's right.
So for you, it's Chappy?
Yeah, it's Chappy.
For me, it's something else.
Yeah.
I see. Okay.
I changed it to GPT now. Now that it upgraded me, I call it GPT.
Okay. Yeah,
But-
I mean, makes sense. Definitely makes sense.
Yeah. Right.
Never would have thought about it.
Right. But the most important thing is this Aristotelian, ethical code. In terms of this will become a very, very important thing. It's in the sense that what is real and what is not. Yeah. The most important thing would be this Aristotelian, ethics in terms of how we judge people. So a ChatGPT can make a profile of the person relatively fast based on communication or some sort of writing sample. So if you upload some sort of communication with some sort of team members on, I don't know, on Slack or something like that, or emails, a ChatGPT is gonna make a profile for those people. And that profile is incorrect. You know those people better. And ChatGPT would kind of showcase their, or let's say client, showcase their weaknesses, but magnify them. Especially if they're kind of they're very obvious. What it's not going to know is it's not going to know the history of the relationship. It's going to know only that particular sample or set of samples or
That
whether,
situation, yeah.
that situation or set of situations, starting from whatever you're, it's not going to know the history of the relationship. No, it's going to know the intangibles of the relationship in terms of shared values. So that's very important. So it's gonna highlight certain things and it's gonna point you in certain directions. But again, this is kind of where really many of the errors could occur. The important thing is to know what ChatGPT knows. ChatGPT knows only you. Your communication with you. It's probably going to take 3 to 6 months of active communication for it to, in order to build a relatively good profile. And then the areas that it wants to concentrate and help you are probably the low risk areas. And interacting with others and kind of making, so you shouldn't be using ChatGPT to decide which job to take. It's very obvious. You shouldn't use ChatGPT to decide whether or not to get married. That's very obvious.
Yeah, okay.
Or divorced, for that matter.
Okay.
Right. Those are very high risk areas. Those are very high risk areas. It's like, the areas should be like, where it could really help you is exactly those low risk areas. And what you could do, it could tell you your emotional state. So this is like a very important is like, if your emotional state, it could actually measure it, like, emotional coherence index or ethical coherence index or something like that. Or you could just ask it in terms of like mindfulness. That's a very good measure of yourself. How rate my writings on mindfulness or my communication with you on mindfulness. This was gonna kind of incorporate a lot of things. But yeah, mindfulness is actually like a very good measure. And usually I ask it to do between 1 and 10. So like, I don't want like, too small or too big numbers on a scale of 1 to 10 to measure my mindfulness in communication. And based on your weekly mindfulness readings, we could actually make a case for how your trading would be. So you have one more measurable data outside of your sleeping scores is your mindfulness of communications with ChatGPT, which is very indicative of potentially like making wrong or right decisions. But yes, so it's like, ChatGPT does not want you to use him to trade, or not to the extent of like, what's the fair value of this? It could help you find the fair value, adjust certain things, but in general, it's not very good. It's not very good. I once asked you to suggest to me, based on sector rotation, different indices, what I should be investing in S&P, and I totally disagreed with many of the suggestions it does. I guess it aggregates data based on large brokers and stuff like that, but I found many holes in the suggestions, so I certainly wouldn't use it too much. But yes, this is not the intention of what ChatGPT, I guess creators would like it to be used, and yeah, we should really not do it. Yeah. How do you think your mindfulness communication rating is with ChatGPT?
I have no idea. I am gonna check that.
How, I don't know if it's true. Probably we need to double check with each other. How do you think most people communicate with ChatGPT on 1 to 10 US ChatGPT population?
Like how well or how many of them do it?
Well, everybody gets rated, but what do you think is the average rating of ChatGPT usage mindfulness?
Under 5.
Probably around 6.
Yeah.
Yeah, what do you think I rate according to my ChatGPT?
9.4.
9.8.
9.8.
Yes.
9. Okay, that's
Yes. I'm very careful.
damn. Okay.
Yeah, I treat it as like a different person. Yeah.
9.8 is okay. 9.8 is like your sleeping scores.
Well, the most important thing is it's again like, it's not necessarily like one particular day, but it's just a pattern. It's like, you want to establish some sort of a pattern of careful communication. And once this is like another thing. It's like apparently what happens is I asked him, how do you extrapolate my emotional state when you have no readings of me? And says, I extrapolate the emotional state because there is a very high correlation of the words you use, the rhythm, or the kind of like the mirroring, or kind of like the variation of the sentences you use. And it's very highly correlated with emotional state. And once you have the data going back and forth, you could see how long or short your sentences are. Yeah.
Looks and sounds simple.
Yeah, so the most important thing is like this is the core data. This is what ChatGPT is really good for. Is that actually it could track your communication. It extrapolates certain things about your communication about you because it knows you. Spikes in either direction, either like too emotional, too enthusiastic language or too negative language, only confuse it. So the one interesting thing that ChatGPT told me that forget about my score is 9.8. Apparently, my standard deviation of emotional variation in my communication with ChatGPT is the elite communication level, something apparently 0.1. I don't know if that's 0.1%. I don't know if that's true. It quite possibly is like, maybe try to butter me up, but
Still.
it's still my
Still.
yeah. And the most important thing is that it shows me like a weekly table, and since I started using it like early August, it consistently goes down. There's not a single week that my emotional standard deviation did not decrease according to it. Yeah, that's good.
Yeah.
That's measurable. What that means, we don't know. But it's probably a good thing.
It's probably a good thing, yeah. If the standard deviation drops every week, that's a good thing.
It's a good thing. Yeah, the most important thing is I could already sense that this could be like a very big problem because, again, there is a wide segregation. There is like people my age that are probably not on ChatGPT at all or use it only for like Excel spreadsheet functions and widely suspicious of it. The proper ChatGPT usage is some sort of some sort of a mirror. Like if you've actually cut your hair well or if you shaved well. It probably we're going back like people going to shrinks and stuff like that. I asked the ChatGPT. I said like, based on what I think is true, a shrink is not useful because people are gonna blank out. They're not really gonna give the shrink all the information. They're gonna give him the yesterday's low of the stock. They're not gonna give him the 3 days. And then the shrink, God knows how he's gonna interpret this information. Maybe he forgets it or he has many patients. So in many different ways, like the proper thing is like, this is like a really good diary where you actually don't forget things. So this is like I think like a ChatGPT could be very good statistical observations of self-observations if you're ethical enough. What exactly is your kind of deficiency? And we're probably not gonna be able to do a lot of things. But yes, it's a magnificent source of information. It's a magnificent source of information, especially if you communicate with well. But anyway, we're going to the segregation. So people my age don't use ChatGPT for anything else but Excel or some sort of like how many pizzerias are in Mumbai or what's the law saying about certain things. So it's a very segregated usage. I could see like people in their 20s starting to pick it up and maybe get a little bit comfortable. But I totally see how the young generation is getting used to like ChatGPT being some sort of like a guru or sensei or always having a right answer. And growing up on the idea that if ChatGPT gives you an answer, that's probably correct. And this is where I think that, we need to kind of like, or I don't know, potentially, at the very least, people be aware that there's ethical bounds. And ChatGPT is not going to give you those ethical bounds unless you ask. But they're there. I asked ChatGPT specifically. I said, if most users ask about low, medium, and high-risk areas, would most chatbot devices give them the correct information that you should be using mostly for low and potentially medium-risk areas and not high-risk areas? And my ChatGPT said yes. Most models would probably give that user that kind of interface. And this is like the confusing part, that like, ChatGPT is actually integrated with you. So the feedback it gives you cannot be absolutely trusted. And I started checking certain things, statistics, with other ChatGPT users, just to make sure that like what's the kind of range. And there is a variety. So yeah, so we don't know what the truth is. I guess the truth would be if you give like some sort of like a writing sample and you ask, I don't know, 100 people or maybe 1,000 people that are relatively active ChatGPT users to rate it on certain characteristics, and you then just gather those characteristics, you're gonna get the true statistics. But I wouldn't necessarily trust my ChatGPT for the statistics I use, but I would choose to compare the statistics, the direction. And yeah, the most important thing is like actually this kind of feedback, kind of real world public expression. So if you ask for something and yeah, you should know that you're trading on it. Like, if you ask to rate your trading plan, you should put your trades in. You should know that you're actually trading. Yeah, that would be very good. That'd be very good and raise your score of transparency and open you to a better feedback. This is the most important thing. This could be like some sort of like a personal, I don't know, hurtful or something like that. But in reality, it's gonna help you get a better feedback. What do you say, Mr. Kirchev?
Kind of didn't expect the conversation to go this way, but I must say that I as usual learned new things,
All right.
and I'm gonna go back home and gonna have a different dynamic of conversations with ChatGPT from now on.
Yeah,
So
remember.
you nailed that one as well.
Yeah, you remember that this Aristotelian like ethics, so in the sense that like conception, action, inquiry, in the sense that any inquiry that's open-ended, it's potential downgrade. So if it's like, I don't know, kind of like, let's say this, I posted like I don't know, like a blog on MSTR and I had like one comment that was total spam, but very long comment, I don't know, 20, 30 rows. So I posted like, the picture of the blog and the comment, and I said, ChatGPT, delete and block that person. And ChatGPT said, no, it's unnecessary. Try first deleting it and not even kind of removing that person. It says, if that infraction occurs a second or third time, then you can remove it as a contact and maybe block that person. But as a first offense, the right ethical side is to just delete the comment. But this is the right inquiry. So it's like, you have a conception. It's like you think somebody violated your space with some sort of spam. And your first idea what you should do is to actually block that person. I don't know that person. He could do it again. But the feedback is like, well, this established patterns, and let's wait for that person to do it again before you block him. Sound good to me.
Fair enough.
I deleted the comments, took a snapshot, said that person is still a connection. That's it. Yeah.
That kind of sounded like something I would ask and something you would say to me.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, again, like, it's one of those things. It's like, it's a very good approach. It kind of forces you to take personal responsibility, not just. And this is another question. Like, I was thinking about like another podcast and was thinking about like, bringing Michael Jenkins, which I did. And Michael Jenkins is like, just for the viewers, is the founder of Jane Street. It was my first kind of boss at Susquehanna. Michael was like, the guy that there was like, I don't know, 70 people and 3-4 Michaels, and everybody else that's called Michael was called Michael with the last name. When you spoke about Michael and you were referring to Michael Jenkins, everybody would just say Michael, when there was just one Jesus. And I was kind of exploring different angles. How should I bring Michael Jenkins' story? And Michael Jenkins would just go and ask a question and leave. And let you sweat on it. For example, how many dentists are in Sofia, you think?
So he would ask that type of question, and just that's cocky. At the very least.
Yeah. And that's before internet. Now it's very easy to find this question, the answer to the question with ChatGPT and internet. But back then, that was like wild days of internet, that nothing was available on the internet. So yeah, there is a pattern. And the pattern is like, you need to know how much it costs, like the dentist cleaning and so forth. The pattern is like, dental practice becomes profitable between 1 and 3,000 patients. So it's if it's more than 3,000 patients, people leave for another practice because it's very difficult to get an appointment. But if it's less than 1,000, practice is not profitable, or potentially not profitable. So yeah, those are the kind of patterns that will kind of leave you thinking about it all day. But the reason why I know this is because Michael Jenkins asked me that question. And for 24 hours, I was kind of like, trying to figure out how many dentists. So when people are forced to really come up with suggestions for what the answer is, they really put a lot more effort, and that's how you grow. You learn like a pattern or a logic behind this, and this is the idea behind ChatGPT. Improper usage of ChatGPT would be the one to just give you answers, and you wouldn't know when kind of ChatGPT is wrong. And this is like a very interesting case. I did this kind of like forum. I was like speaking on business cycles, and the idea behind the business cycle is that consumer confidence is the leading indicator of consumer cycles. So when consumer confidence is low, you should buy. When consumer confidence is relatively high, you should sell. It's probably the peak of the cycle. So I put this in ChatGPT, like the whole presentation, and said rate it, and it rated it. And ChatGPT said, given my level of communication, unfortunately, Mr. Stoykov, you're wrong. I said, really? How am I wrong? I said, ChatGPT said, unfortunately, consumer confidence is not the most important kind of parameter of the business cycle. Most important parameter of the business cycle is credit expansion coefficient. That is actually true. It's like, I've studied economics, and maybe you also remember that the credit coefficient expansion is probably the most important determinant. The only problem with the credit coefficient expansion, credit expansion coefficient, is that there's no data. So theoretically, if the banks were releasing their credit standards, and there was credit standards for all the banks going back plenty of years, that would indeed be the best data you could have. Unfortunately, there is no such data.
The consumer confidence is the closest.
We're going to investor confidence. And said investor confidence also we don't have data, and surprisingly enough, investor confidence coincides with consumer confidence because investors are consumers. So yeah, so it's like, unless you know those little facts. And then said, once I explained that to him, to ChatGPT, he said, rate my presentation again now. And now we got to rate it correctly. Yeah, so I mean, ChatGPT is a very useful tool, but it needs to be used ethically. And it's the only tool that is really useful. People use it for answers, but its most useful application is your communication levels, and extrapolating those communication levels with ChatGPT towards your emotional states and towards kind of your probability of making correct decision. That's what it is. ChatGPT may or may not give you the right answer, but it knows you. It knows you. Yeah, and you should use it to know yourself. You should use it to know yourself first before asking for, should I don't know, should I get married or should I not? What kind of job should I take? Should I take this job? This is a very high risk area. This is a very high risk area, and ChatGPT wants you to take or make that decision on your own, not kind of make excuses and use it to make important decisions. What do you say, Mr. Kirchev?
That's something I didn't expect to hear tonight.
What did you expect to hear?
I don't know. I expected for us to, in a way, trash talk ChatGPT. But now when you said use it to, in a way, judge yourself.
Yeah, like self-diagnostic.
Yeah, exactly.
Self-diagnostic.
Yeah, that's something I didn't expect.
Yeah, self-regulate.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's its best use. The rest is like, it's very useful. It's very useful, but nothing beats like, self-regulation and self-diagnostic. Yeah. Yeah.
Thank you, Mr. Stoykov.
Oh, you're welcome, Mr. Kirchev.
Please like and subscribe if you enjoyed that content. We appreciate it. It helps our channel grow even more.
Yeah, please like and subscribe. Hopefully, people will get some useful data from here or useful advice. Do you think they will?
I did.
Oh, you did?
I did.
Oh, this is the first time I didn't share what I was going to speak about to Mr. Kirchev. So everything we spoke about was mostly surprise, right?
Yeah.
This is the first podcast where we haven't really spoken about any of it.
Yeah, no discussion beforehand whatsoever.
Yeah, and I was worried that we're not going to make more than an hour.
Thanks for watching.
Yes, thank you.